From the Good News Broadcasting Studio headquarters here in Nairobi, my name is Eugyne Ochieng Kwach, and of course this is The Insight, which comes to you every Friday at 8 p.m. And of course we are here to discuss politics. Well, with less than 8 months to the next year's general election, leading presidential contenders' hopefuls seem to have narrowed down the bruising and bare-knuckled battle that are shaping the 2022 campaign. Right here on The Insight tonight, as it is our revered norm to furnish you with a massive and an inclusive dissection into the political spectrum. We are delving into a discourse that will not only enlighten you, but through this deliberate and intriguing conversation, you get insights which help you to make up your mind on certain important political decisions that help you as a viewer in issues that otherwise you will be still uncertain about. And of course, in doing this, we bring on the bench different political pundits and commentators. And of course, with me are three today. And I'll start with the first, which is Wesley Jeff. Wesley Jeff is the Service Party National Youth Chairperson. Wesley Jeff is also a lawyer by profession. We have Mirimo Nyongesa. Mirimo Nyongesa is a lawyer and a political commentator. And of course, we're also having him on the show with us tonight. We have Mr. Gibson Wambugu. Mr. Gibson Wambugu, apart from business, is also an aspirant of Mukurwe Ini Westward. I believe I've gotten it right, sir. And so thank you so much for accepting my invite. And I'll start with you, Mr. Wambugu. Yes, sir. I want us to start to begin this conversation with President Uhuru's frequent visit in the popular opposition strongholds like Nyanza and of course Coast. He has been frequenting these places, and of course we even know that they are at the center of his legacy projects. What do you make of this? There have been allegations, some pundits opine that perhaps he's doing this maybe because one of his kids in the future will maybe need the top seat as a president. That is why he's trying to lure, if I can say that, lure the former opposition, if I could say the former. Is it so? What do you think?
Well, Mr. Kwach, let me first take this opportunity to most especially thank you for inviting me over. I do not take it easy that I'm presented here in this great media station to expound on what I believe in, what I know, and get to learn from my peers. So it's a pleasure and I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
I also think it's not too late to wish the good people, our viewers back at home, a happy new year and a prosperous 2022. As much as we are already into the double digit, today being 12th,
yes,
it only means that time is far much gone. But still, I wish everybody back at home God's unmerited favor in the year 2022. Times have been tough, but God has been great.
Okay.
Now, on to what you're asking me. Let me candidly say that President Uhuru Kenyatta is basically busy trying to influence the outcome, not of one of his kin or kids. His interest is solely focused on 2022. The man, as many of his close friends have said, feels that he's too young to retire. I have no fear of contradiction when I say this, because unlike what you have seen in the past with Kibaki's and the Mois, he's busy trying to groom his successor. Already we know he's out there, and he's even trying to cajole the principals in Oka to, we had these in the parliament, we had these laws, the controversial political bill, where they are trying to compel them to form an MOU or an agreement, a coalition agreement, for a period of at least 6 months, which in a way was trying to cajole and coerce the local principals into supporting Raila Amolo Odinga.
Okay. So
basically, Uhuru's interest in overseeing that he's in good books in the opposition strongholds, as it was during the 2013 and 2017 elections, is trying to win over these people's hearts. And remember, whenever he's launching these projects or going to see how they're coming along, he never forgets to say that he has taken the mighty hand of his elder brother, who is Raila Amolo Odinga, to have these great things going on in the country. Per se, he's saying that had it not been for Raila, this would not have been done. And consequently, his legacy is only safe with Raila Amolo Odinga.
Okay.
So for him, it's a political agenda he's expounding in the strongholds, in the former opposition strongholds, to try and have a say on who succeeds him come 2022 August. Yes.
Okay, let me get this from maybe Wesley. Wesley, what do you think about it when his frequent visit to opposition strongholds?
You see, I think I tend to agree with what Wambugu has said. Because in politics, nothing happens out of mere coincidence.
Okay.
And politics is progressive and more so dynamic. See, since the handshake in 2018, at first they tried going with a story that this is not political.
Okay.
This is about the interest of the country first, about healing the nation and bringing a lasting solution. But they formed a handshake that was not inclusive of everyone. And that includes most notably the deputy president. So that goes on further, and suddenly he stops operating his government, or rather the Jubilee administration, as a dual thing, as a conjoined thing with him and the deputy president, rather starts to credit the opposition chief for his successes. And consequently, that government stops being inclusive of the deputy president and starts including the opposition chief, which has led us to this moment now. Whenever he goes on to go to the former opposition, actually still the opposition, because technically there has not been an election since.
Yes.
But he goes to those areas where he used to shy away from.
Okay.
To charm them. And it's because he sees a life after politics that does not include him leaving politics. So whoever is going to come next needs to guarantee his longevity in politics. So they tried that with the BBI. The change of structure could have possibly seen Uhuru back into the political field. Who knows? I cannot speculate because I am not a prophet. But when that failed, there was no direct line of entry into the politics for Uhuru Kenyatta. So now he's doing what most former presidents have chosen not to do, and that is get involved in a transitional election. Because Kibaki took a hands-off approach. Moi just announced who he would want as a successor, tried to push him, but soon after that he knew this is the end of the road for me. But Uhuru still claims that I'm still too young to go home, and it is said through his major mouthpieces anyway. When he claims that, he's sending a message that the person that I would trust to secure all these cumulative interests that I have just mentioned, from my longevity in politics, from the massive state protection they enjoy, the wealth that their family has, is Raila Odinga. Because quote unquote, whether he's been in opposition, he is a more familiar face to the system than most of his other competitors. So I think, in conclusion, that Uhuru is just trying to galvanize support from other areas to protect his own interests.
Okay, wow. Mr. Mirimo Nyongesa, I believe you've heard what both of them have said, but of course the bottom line is that Raila has an ulterior motive. Uhuru Kenyatta has got an ulterior motive in supporting Raila, or even frequenting maybe the opposition strongholds. So kindly let me ask you, do you share the same opinion as them?
Definitely. It goes without saying that their renewed bromance transcends politics. I'll agree with them that it's largely anchored on securing business interests rather than seeking a mere political power. We understand that our politics has not been a politics of vengeance per se. With Kibaki having come in, he didn't go after Moi. Uhuru having come in, he also did his thing. And so we understand that whoever will come next will also do their thing. So basically, Uhuru is just trying to secure the family business interests. Some of the things we can't mention, but it's just to protect the family business interests.
Okay, wow. That is quite interesting. Are you both agreeing that that it is for the interest of the president, actually? But let me ask you this, Mr. Wambugu.
Yes, sir.
An anxiety has actually gripped in President Kenyatta's loyalist, that is Mount Kenya region, because of his perceived delay in providing the succession plan ahead of the August 9th general election. In as much as we know that, of course, through the undertones, the political undertones, that the president could be leaning on a Raila presidency, yet why is it that the president is still not so explicit in his succession plan on who he wants to succeed him?
Let me be categorical on this.
Yes.
President Uhuru Kenyatta is not seeking to have a successor in the larger Mount Kenya region, per se. Because, as I insist, we have heard it from his close allies that he's too young to retire. And these people basically believe that even post his presidency, he'll still be the mouthpiece, per se, or he'll still be the revered king whom the larger Mount Kenya region will be looking up to for directions. Now, there has been a systemic plan by the president to make sure that he does not come up with a strong man or per se somebody whom we could speak categorically and say that this is the man that we are looking to was inheriting whatever influence, political influence that President Uhuru Kenyatta has had within Central Kenya. See what has happened to anybody who has come close towards galvanizing support of the larger Mount Kenya region. We had the likes of a man I respect very much, Mwangi Kionjori. Mwangi Kionjori, many looked up to him as the imminent successor of Mr. Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. But the man got kicked out of the cabinet, and it was, as Wetangula once said, it was noisy and messy when he was leaving the cabinet, despite the president prevailing upon him not to vie for the governor in Laikipia, with a promise that since I'm in my last term, just come we do work together, then I'll see how post my presidency, I leave you as the mouthpiece of Mount Kenya. So Mr. Kenyatta, His Excellency, doesn't really have a plan of grooming anybody to take over him, because again, he still thinks he's too young to be succeeded.
Okay, but by President Uhuru Kenyatta not being so explicit in his succession plan, don't you think that actually it will affect Mount Kenya, actually? Actually, for example, if he wants to back someone, then maybe if he's not so explicit right now, if he doesn't tell people what he wants actually, who he wants to succeed him, actually it will bring a bit of chaos. Don't you think so?
You see, the president finds himself in a very precarious situation because, for starters, he already made that very clear in 2017. He put a promise in people's minds. Regardless of where you stand politically, that promise is there. It's on record. It has been said. Alisema kumi yangu, kumi ya yule. You see, when you say that, that grandmother in, for example, Wambogo's place in Mokoreni West does not have time to understand your political schemes and the chess you're playing in future. They know that you said once you're done, this is the person you're expecting. Now, that's the first problem he faces. The second problem he faces in naming a successor, or his delay, as you put it, is that, simply put, he does not have a plan. Because by his own doing, as Wambogo has said, and I like where the discussion is going because Wambogo is speaking right from my mind, he made sure that nobody comes after him. Look at the history of Mount Kenya. And just so you speak, the people of Mount Kenya have traditionally been very clever when it comes to voting. They know that despite threats, despite being coerced, they always do what they want when it comes to vote. Where they believe their interests are best held, they will go there. Look at Moi and the election that Moi, Matiba, and Kibaki did. The Kikuyu vote was split right down the middle, and it cost them the presidency. But still, they were not, in spite of there being people that we are seeing, because the script is playing out in a deja vu style. The ruling government, or rather, there are people who are in the administration trying to coerce people to join a particular formation. But they still chose to go for Matiba and Kibaki. And in spite the consequences of knowing that us not uniting might cost us the presidency. Now, consequently, when Uhuru was coming in, he was declared the spokesperson of the Mount Kenya region. He was given that leeway to be the man. And most presidents in the administration, they know that after this, there is still a larger interest before me, which is A, the country, B, my community where I come from, because unfortunately everyone comes from a community. So it's always been a bit of a transition. But now Uhuru, through so many things, has made sure that there are no leaders to succeed him. He gave the example of my party leader, Mwangi Kionjori. It's true that who can you right now in Mount Kenya say that is a proper leader who can speak up against injustice? For example, if Odinga or William Ruto becomes the president today, and we don't have a person who can speak against him, because the people who are following William, some of them cannot even challenge him because they follow him for either handouts or political mileage. People go to rallies, they don't have substance, and when they see that the crowd is getting bored, they mention the name Ruto and suddenly everybody cheers. That's the currency that some of these leaders have. But when you speak to having proper leaders, most of them have had the rug pulled under them just so that they don't get the influence deserved. And as I wind up, my party leader convened a meeting of about 50 MPs in Embu when he was in the ministry to talk about the path of the people who come from our region. He convened that meeting, and the main agenda at that time was 1 man, 1 vote, 1 shilling, which is the equality of the vote. You cannot tell me that in Mount Kenya we have populations, for example, where I reside in Ruiru, we have 183,000 or thereabout voters, but the population is far more. So when it comes to an allocation of bursary, it's 120 something million for each MP. So consequently, our MP has to give a bursary of the same amount with an MP who is in, for example, in for lack of a better example, Garissa. So these children there in Garissa get a bursary of about 35,000. As we get 2,000. Kiwa amejaribu sana. So he tried to champion for the equality of the vote, but consequently, that was the beginning of him exiting the cabinet stage because it was said he was politicking. But currently, CSs have been doing politics, even now when Keter said he will support Ruto. They've been doing politics. Ukuri Atani said he would support who the president rules, or where the president points. CS Matiang'i, a minister of interior security, CS Joe Mushero, they have been consequently there. Masharia and Waidago, they have been doing campaigns for Uhuru himself. So you get to see the double speak in Uhuru's intention when he says, when you're talking about a delay, but it's a delay of his own making. And as much as he's young, he's a young guy, and he may feel he's too young to retire, none of us lives in this world permanently.
Mirimo.
I think on this, I'll defend President Uhuru Kenyatta. Before 2013 elections, we couldn't determine to whom the Mount Kenya leadership mantle was to be passed from President Kibaki. In fact, we knew that the 2013 succession politics were to be in favor of Mudavadi. It was until the very last minute when Uhuru came up with the TNA that we understood, okay, Mount Kenya leadership mantle is being passed to President Uhuru Kenyatta. And one thing we need to understand is that Uhuru did not give himself these powers. There are people who gave him the mandate to lead the mountain, to speak on behalf of the mountain. And so it is not in order to say that Uhuru has been frustrating other leaders from Mount Kenya, and up to now, the region is still confused as to whom is to take over from President Uhuru Kenyatta. Let people be patient, and I think I'll give the classical case of, was he Julius Caesar? Yes, you know, ambitions are good, but they become dangerous if the excesses are not checked. And sometimes they turn fatal. Kinjuri would have believed in the promissory note given to him by Uhuru Kenyatta, relaxed, delivered on the mandate given to him by Uhuru Kenyatta. You see, it is not upon Uhuru to determine to whom he shall pass the leadership mantle of the mountain. He would have gone back to the very people who gave him the mandate. So it's not in order to keep blaming Uhuru Kenyatta on how he has been frustrating leaders from the region. He's only defending the throne that was given to him by some other people. Yeah. And on whatever Uhuru, just a minute. And on saying that Uhuru said, Yangu Kumi, Yaruto Kumi. You see, this was a very simple statement that is debatable and can be a subject of wide interpretation. In that, I can as well choose to say, he meant, Yangu Kumi kama rais, na Yaruto Kumi kama naibu wa rais. Because legally speaking, office of the presidency is one.
Can I respond to that?
Okay, yeah, you can respond.
You see, that to me is what we call technicalities and trying to run away from the fact. You see, after he said Yangu Kumi, Ruto Kumi, he said, huyu Ruto tunataka huyu mzee tumtume Bondo, ndio Ruto aingie na timu yake, aeke watu wake na aendelee na kazi. So that cannot be subjected to any form of interpretation. It is a clear and direct statement. And secondly, the example of Mwangi Kionjori is just one out of many. We've mentioned Mwangi Kionjori because personally for me, he is my party leader. But look in the Mount Kenya region. In the past, we used to know that when you go to Laikipia, there was GG karaoke. When you go to other places, there were
the Michukis.
The Michukis of the day. There were people who you could look upon and say, this man can give direction or some form of advice to the people of the mountain. But now you look at it, everyone right now is trying to craft themselves.
And it was out of that confusion that Moi stayed in power for 24 years. And so after that, the mountain realized that we need to coalesce our voices. We need to establish a common ground of understanding as a region through which we can channel our interests. You understand? And so after that, Kibaki came in. You see, he led the mountain. After that, the region again came together. They decided the mantle is to be passed to.
I think you've gotten your facts a bit confused.
Let me get this straight from Wambugu. How did Uhuru Kenyatta become the kingpin?
That's exactly where I wanted to come in. Because this man is exercising intellectual dishonesty. You see, what you're talking about, you're not talking of, if you're grooming a successor, doesn't mean that you're bringing up competitors with divergent opinions. No, you're just speaking of channels upon which, if we do not get to reach you, since you're the head of state, you might be busy with other errands. Whom can we entrust with our needs, that once we address them with these people, whether it's in Nyeri, whether it's in Meru, whether it's in Moranga, whether it's in... If we talk to this one person, we are guaranteed of having an ear with the president. Now, is it the Moraves? These are the guys who have brought down this country because of their reckless statements, the double speak by the president himself. How do you imagine of a head of state who is crying out that munataka nifanye nini?
Exactly.
Imagine he's surrounded by people whom the much they can advise him is to come confess upon the nation that kila siku napoteza bilioni 2. Now, he is the head of state. Surely, Kwach, what can you do as a citizen if the president is there mourning, crying to the nation that indeed we are losing 2 billion and there is nothing I can do? So back to the question, sorry for the divergence. President Kenyatta did not make himself to be the leader he is. We had a series of ground meetings with the people up to the culmination of Limuru 2B, whereby he was now appointed by the people, the representative of the people, that amongst all the equals, you can be a first amongst them. Doesn't mean that he was the most qualified, because even our community right now, despite the few leaders who are there not having the limelight upon them, of which we expected that the president being there would have shed some more light on these people so that they'll have a say beyond the boundaries of our region. They are there. It's just a matter of gentleman's agreement that among these equals, who will be the first? Remember Michuki confessing that anybody who wants to come to Central Kenya must do so through President Uhuru Kenyatta. When the people tried to use, you remember that statement of State House dark forces, the Madimoni, when he was being cajoled that now he should sign that he endorses Mudavadi. Personally, I was part of the people who went to Multimedia University alongside the Naomi Shabans, the Kabogos, to prevail upon President Uhuru Kenyatta that this is not now upon you. It's beyond you. It's the interest of the community.
Gentlemen, well, I want us to actually shift gears a bit to another issue here. Still on succession politics, the 2022. There are fears actually. We have witnessed a national blackout recently by the KPLC. And of course, my question is that, do you think that this could be political in any way? Because we have witnessed a certain national blackout in the history of our politics, or the succession politics. So from where you sit, Mr. Mirimo, do you believe that it could be political and in some way it could be used in the future?
There is nothing political in that. Of course, we just have a few miscreants who have just decided to economically sabotage us. And I think we shouldn't use that to create unnecessary political undertones out of that. I think the state should just ensure heightened safety and security of key national infrastructures going forward. There's nothing political with that, and we shouldn't create unnecessary panic.
Somebody is responsible for what is going on in this country. Remember, the last time we had a nationwide blackout, Kibaki was sworn in as a president. You remember?
I remember.
That was around the year 2007. He's speaking candidly that the state should upgrade its security measures towards ensuring a repeat does not happen. How about the state is responsible for what happened?
And now, but that now begs the question that what now could be the effect of a political sabotage?
You see, this nation has gotten to a point you are just never too sure of what to believe, what not to believe. When we have a successful event by the deputy president in Eldoret, but instead of that now being broadcasted, the state sits down and determines that to bring down the razzmatazz around the deputy president's event in Eldoret, let us pin one person, the name of Mithika Linturi, spin around a statement that he has used, despite it being clear within the context of which it was used, and use that one to divert the attention of the nation from the real issue, which was a successful event in Eldoret. So we're having a nation that the fact that the head of state has to choose. He's choosing between the nation and his own selfish interest of influencing the outcome here 2022. Now, we are never too sure of what to believe.
Should it happen, actually, what are the effects of a political sabotage? Could it happen in the future? What are the effects? What can happen, actually?
So allow me to respond to a few things I've heard, then I will answer the question. First, you see, for me, I want to agree with him that I don't see much. I don't want to read too much into that because we saw the thing fell and the lights went out. That's fine. But the question is, Wambogo also raises an important point that right now you don't know what's true, what's not. So you can't rule it out with absolute certainty that it was not pre-planned or staged. You cannot. But on something he's mentioned about the Madoadoa comment, and maybe we'll get there, but I want to say that for me that statement was not by chance. It was not intentional, especially for a man who has been so experienced in politics. If maybe we're talking about a first-time MP, maybe a by-election MP, then I would possibly want to say maybe he actually meant the lining of our clothes. But to say that in Eldoret, where there was height of post-election violence, is quite... For me, it is not intentional, and Mithika should face whatever comes his way. But should it happen, if a national blackout were to happen, and possibly during the election time, I think it would reduce the faith we have in our institutions even more, and it would dent our country in ways that cannot believe. I'm not going to say that we would slide back to the 2007 way. It is somewhere that a lot of us have seen and we would never want to see again. But in the lasting effects, it would dent the credibility of our infrastructure, our institutions. And it also brought about something to light very important. that Kenya, every time there is a disaster, Kenya proves itself to be incompetent in handling it. COVID had to come to make us realize that our health structure is not nearly sufficient, not even basic. It had to be a disaster, a pandemic to show us that. And one might argue even US faced that, or bigger countries did, but now ours was in a problematic situation that we cannot believe in. Now we are realizing that despite KPLC's monopoly, despite it being the service provider for our electricity, it still has problems. So what happens when KPLC is not able to discharge its mandate? Same thing with KQ. A national carrier that is alone, doesn't have competition, but still does not serve us to its full capacity. That tells us about our institution, and generally our country just needs an overhaul of situation.
Now back to my question, what will be the effect of now our sabotage?
I know where that question is headed, but you see, now there is talk about the deep state, there is talk about somebody will face the consequences of a deep state. If there was a blackout around the elections, people would hate to see a repeat of what happened, as he mentioned, a president being sworn in the dark, as opposed to electoral justice.
Now that you guys have mentioned actually about the hate speech, now in the context of the recent ethnic incitements, Mr. Mirimo, by the politicians actually, what is actually this communicating going towards 2022? What should actually the government even do to ensure that this reduces actually?
I think I'll begin by saying the government should draw its close. We should not sacrifice, we should not sacrifice the peace and stability of this country on the altars of democracy. In that, the Bill of Rights is so comprehensive and guarantees all these freedoms, freedom of speech, freedom of association, but these freedoms are not absolute. Provided that these particular rights and freedoms are prejudicial to the national economic and security interests, they can be curtailed. And I want to warn politicians who are using different political platforms to propagate ethnic incitements and divisions, because at the end of the day, we have a country to protect, we have a country to develop, and we have lives and careers also to protect. And so that goes deep down to securing the stability of all these institutions. And so I'll urge the government, I'll urge President Uhuru Kenyatta to come out, no one will castigate him, and go after all these characters using the different platforms granted to them to propagate divisive messages.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. We are going for a short break, but actually we are going to be right back. Now, you guys back at home, kindly stay with us, and of course you can SMS. You can use our SMS line, that is 2144 GBS TV Africa at Eugyne Ochieng Kwach. Those are where you can actually find us in the social media platforms. You can engage with us actually, and we get to talk more. Well, we're going for a short break, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to the Inside. Of course, we're having a conversation here discussing politics. Of course, this will give insights to different issues in the political sphere. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much. We are continuing with this conversation. This week, actually, the Deputy President held a mega rally at Eldoret and Bomet. But I want us to focus on this one man, Cleophas Malala, who actually attended the party donning an ANC T-shirt, and him donning the ANC party T-shirt actually makes us read a lot from it. People so the political pundits think that perhaps he might be having the blessing of the party leader Musalia Mudavadi going there. So this now begs the question that should we expect a UDA ANC alliance maybe in the future? If I start with you, Mirimo Nyongesa.
First, I'll speak on this as a Luya.
Yes.
Who comes from the same backyard as Malala.
Yes.
We need to understand that whatever Malala airs out are the blessings of Mudavadi.
Okay.
He has been used before he has been used before to abuse Mudavadi while seemingly supporting Raila, only later to realize that it's meant to create some sort of sympathy for Mudavadi and create some sort of resentment against Raila in Western region. Mudavadi I think Mudavadi is a frustrated man. He's between a rock and a hard place,
right.
not knowing which direction to take. Because
but if you say so that he has the blessings of Mudavadi, but the ANC party actually disassociated itself through a statement. Disassociated itself from the rally at Eldoret.
This is part of a political script. We know Kenyan politics.
Okay.
So this is not news. There's a lot of confusion in ANC. NCs are confused.
So actually, according to you, you think that Musalia Mudavadi could be a lame duck leader?
I think even leader should not be mentioned in the same line with Mudavadi. He's just confused. Mudavadi is totally confused with the entire party structure.
Okay, Mr. Ombugu.
Yes.
What do you think about this?
Well.
Are we expecting an alliance now?
Personally, I've heard from my party leader, the deputy president himself, saying that he's open towards having these people on the table, Wetangula and Mudavadi.
Okay.
In fact, we from the central region felt that even him is not treating us so kindly because he said our parties are tribal. Remember the Chama Chakazi, the TSP that my friends here leads and others, and he dismissed these parties saying they are tribal. His motive is to build a juggernaut, one big political national party, but he says that then serves us with an exception of Mudavadi and Omwami Wetangula, saying that these two is open towards having a political conversation with them. So if that is the party leader saying that he's open towards having a conversation, I don't see why I should contradict that statement. I think it's clear. There's the probability. And don't forget that if one is in a position to solidify the Western vote, although that has been elusive for so many political leaders to galvanize the support of the Western region, it easily becomes one of the key voting blocks in this country with millions and millions of votes.
About ANC, people are underrating that move.
Okay.
A lot of people just look at Mudavadi and see the gentleman in politics and they think he doesn't have a viper's touch. But I can tell you for now, anything that is happening in ANC to me is not coincidental. The other day we saw the deputy party leader of ANC join Azimio.
Okay.
This reminds me of a story of a war where two brothers decided that come what may, we'll always be on the winning side.
Okay.
So they were always on opposing sides. When there were two warring kings, moja kwa huku, mwingine ako huku. When this side wins, he begs for mercy for his brother, and his brother gets to keep his land. His children are not imprisoned. His wives are still safe. That is the card that, to me, I am seeing being played by Mudavadi. You cannot tell me that Ayub Savula, a man who was educated by Mudavadi himself, goes to Azimio, of which the presidential candidate there is Raila, whom Mudavadi has said, I will not work with.
Okay.
And then the next time we see Malala in the meeting that the deputy president is going to be let loose by his people to come and campaign. But now to the question, tribal parties. First of all, I think that is a very hypocritical statement to make.
Okay.
Simply because, one, what defines a national party? A cycle of elections. How many elections has UDA been to? You can't count any. Because if by-elections, and I've consistently said by-elections, especially so close to the elections, do not count, because they are about showing muscle as opposed to governance. They are about seeing who is ruling now. Has the ruling party lost its charm? That's what by-elections are about, so close to the election. And I am saying you cannot call other parties tribal when you have only one MP from a by-election. That's why I'm telling you, this what he calls regional parties are for me a systemic progression to try and make sure that that region, a problem caused by the president, does not have leaders. Because you have talked about the Omwamis, you have forgot about a PDP leader, the governor of Migori, Obado. He said he's open to working with Obado in seeking the presidency. That means there is a conscious and intentional exclusion of Mount Kenya parties. And you need to ask yourself one question with UDA. Because personally, for me, I am a supporter of the deputy president. But I cannot and will not support UDA for simple reason. UDA is an incarnate of Jubilee. I saw what transpired. And if you look at the people that the deputy president works with, especially the members of the National Assembly, they are mostly first-term MPs. People who have not tasted the trappings of power past this previous election of 2017. You need to ask yourself why are stalwarts like who have been in Bunge for so long, people like Maoka Maore, whom personally I'm not exactly a fan of, people like Kanini Kega, people like Kafogo, who has been a governor and an MP, people like Justin Muturi, who has also been in politics, people like Kiraito Murungi, who has gone to 5 elections with different parties. Why will they not join UDA? You need to put that question in your mind and see that these people, there is something that they are seeing. And more so, last but certainly not least, you cannot go through 10 experienced politicians in Kenya without mentioning my party leader. 3 terms in parliament, an assistant minister, a minister, a cabinet secretary. You want to tell me this man is so ignorant of the politics that is going on right now in Kenya? He does not know that according to the wave, if I go to UDA, I'll be elected to whatever position or be given CS, because what else would you give Mwangi Kionjuri apart from CS that would measure up to where he's been? You see, it is a question of them labeling us tribal parties or small parties is a systemic way of making sure that leaders don't rise. This is a script, and I usually say, don't blame Ruto. Ruto grew up where the power is very central, where Moi had Biwott for this, Makto for that, and other people who are strongmen for him that he made. Ruto is trying to make his own leaders, the Ishongwas of this country, the Ndindi Nyoros of this country, the Gachagwas of this country, so that these people, when and if he gets into government, will answer only to him and not the people who give them the mandate to serve.
Okay. Well, Miribo Nyongesa, do you have something to say about that?
I couldn't put it any better. I think each and everyone within DP's camp, or rather a substantial portion of his associates, are people of questionable character. And so it begs the question as to where the country is likely to head should he assume to power. Are we likely to go back to whatever used to happen in the 90s? Where some other characters, some shadowy characters could do their thing without being answerable, without being held responsible? Look at the kind of utterances being made in UDA rallies, with the latest being in Eldoret.
Well, okay, but I want us to first of all focus on the deputy president's party not wanting to work with leaders or leaders and parties from the central Kenya, it agreeing to work with others. Is there some maybe negative implications that maybe these people of central may think that maybe the deputy president does not want maybe to work with them, or what do you think about it?
Basically, that's where most of the people I've interacted with, being an interested person coming from the central Kenya, most of the people I've interacted with who have reservations supporting the deputy president, they only have that one question. They wonder why. Why does he feel that we need to be in his party as opposed to us having our own parties, and then we can collaborate, engage on interest basis. So I cannot. I'm in no position to advise him. But if I was to advise him, I can tell him for free that he is losing a wide chunk of his support base because of the implications of insisting that he's not ready and willing to work with parties that come from the central region.
Just to add on that, you need to think about what these people he's purporting to exclude carry, because you cannot go to Meru politics and not mention Munya and Kiraito. Munya has PNU, Kiraito has Mbas. Those are substantial votes lost. Bithika Linturi on his own cannot galvanize the support that these two can marshal. Come to Laikipia, you cannot ignore Mwangi Kionjuri, who is also popular in other counties. For example, our county has, our party has aspirants in more than 19 counties. So you tell me if those people are directed against the deputy president, it's his election to lose. It's not, the consequences will be upon him. So the net effect of that is he's creating unnecessary strife, because most of these leaders were already dalliancing with him in the past. My party leader, for example, was a friend to the deputy president in the beginning or in the run-up to creation of our party.
Okay.
He was of the opinion that he will support the president, whether in opposition, whether in presidency. Look at people like Kabogo. You cannot ignore Kabogo. He comes from a very populous county. That's a man who won in a county that has over 1 million votes. So that person himself, if he decides he's going to take these votes to Baba, my friend, you are in for a very hard time in the election.
Okay.
So he needs to re-strategize and see that he needs to pick fights that are necessary. Don't pick fights with everybody. If some parties are looking for their own votes so that they can represent their people better, let them do it. You're interested in presidency. We are supporting you for presidency. Tafuteni viti ya MP ya women rep. We will all go to Bunge and work on a collaboration. And to answer your question, they call us small parties. First, as TSP, and I can speak authoritatively about this, we are not interested in discussing coalition talks before March. After that, we can. But our party position is that we are more interested in post-election coalition agreements. We are more than happy to show our strength when it comes to the election, because there is no point of us to try and force a relationship. So until March, we can open that discussion, but we are more prioritizing having a post-coalition agreement, so that post-election coalition agreement, so that when we go to Bunge, when we go to talk about how representation will work, we will have respect for each other as members on the table.
Just a minute. Yes. I think on that, in terms of creating political value, I defend the deputy president. You know, having these smaller parties is meant to create value for the particular party leaders who run these parties. As my friend is saying, they're not interested in coalition talks until March. What's the essence of that? They want to create. They want to have a bargaining strength. They want to strengthen the bargaining position as they had towards 2022 general elections. And so, you know, it's easier to control your children's when there's when they're still under your roof rather than when they're married. You see, and so it's easier for the deputy president to have all these politicians under his wings when they're in UDA. In terms of political strength, that's what I'm not.
Just to ask a question.
I'm not a supporter.
One time we were going out talking to the people and what they think, and Mwananchi told us, sisi tunataka UDA. We were like, okay. Then he progressed to ask. Then another person in the gathering asked, ni sawa sisi tunataka UDA, lakini he is coming. Naibu wa rais anakuja directly to the Mwananchi, as he likes to say, talks directly to the Mwananchi. Uchaguzi ikiisha tukimtafuta tutampata.
How will he get that?
Hatuwezi enda bunge sisi wote. You know, that is a very interesting question, and you find that now in the Mount Kenya region it's not where it was 6 months ago. In 6 months ago, Mount Kenya, you could not have talked about the possibility of Baba. And credit to Azimio, they have done a lot of work. People like Kanini Kega, when the chapters of 2022 election are written, Kanini Kega, Jeremiah Kioni will have their own slot to be talked about, because they have done immense work. And you go to Mount Kenya, you will see out of every, now before it was 0, now you go to Mount Kenya, out of every 10 there are 3 who want Baba convincingly, and they will tell you exactly why. At least Baba anasema kujeni venye mko, we are looking for partners, not followers. That says a lot about even the person who is undecided. They will say, I'd rather work with a partner than go follow a person. It is
what should be telling Kenyans is, what can't you deliver while under UDA that must be delivered through TSP?
And that, to answer that question, it is simple and clear. You see, UDA is being called a national movement, and as I've said, no party is national until it has been tested through an election cycle. The deliverance of what we are looking for, the interests of the people, are communicated with equal representation. And you cannot talk about equal representation when where you have people in that party who cannot speak up. And let me give you an example. If today in Laikipia West, my county, which has been experiencing insecurity issues, largely because of issues of land and issues of drought, if a bill is written today in parliament by member of parliament for the northeastern counties, that bill will reflect the problems of Northern County. They will reflect droughts, deserts, and they will reflect camels and goats, or rather camels. Let's speak about camels.
Okay.
But if that bill is presented by a UDA member, for example, the UDA member for Laikipia West, if that is the person we elected, will not be able to take this bill back to reading because they have been told tomorrow there is a motion, go vote in a particular way.
Okay.
But when people have different parties, I can stand and say, as a member of parliament for Laikipia West, this bill does not reflect the interest of my people. Let it be taken back to reading. And I will not be coerced or whipped by somebody because they are not my party leader. And that is what Kafogo said the other day. He said, if we go to parliament and one of my members does the wrong thing, I will whip them as the party leader. We need parties and strong parties with different ideals.
Okay.
Because some people believe in the bottom up, but they don't believe in the process of the bottom up.
Okay.
They believe in bottom up, middle out. Some people believe it's a balance. You cannot say you don't need my vote because I disagree with you. It is about line of thought and finding balances. That's how parliament is. And I think that the next parliament will be beautiful for Mwananchi.
Okay.
Because other than for the president, it will be a hard way because he'll have to actually lead and govern, no, as opposed to previously where they have to whip people into submission and voting a particular way.
By and large, if I was quickly to interject what he's saying,
Yes.
is that all politics is local. Nobody understands best the concerns of Mukoreni West region than I, who resides there, than I, who comes from that region.
Okay.
And there's always beauty and strength in diversity. This country, let's not forget that we fought so hard to have the multi-party democracy. Now, are we not taking some steps back to argue that we need to fold the small parties and go back towards having one gigantic big party? I mean, it's a retrogressive. We are taking some steps back. So I see no challenge whatsoever. If you are genuine and your concerns are towards addressing the concerns of the people of the various corners of this country, let them have their leaders from the areas however they feel best. Let's meet on that central table, that decision-making table, and decide upon the needs, how to address the concerns of our people from their own comfortable, safe place. If it's TSP, if it's UDA, if it's Chama cha Kazi, whichever.
Okay, gentlemen, actually we are short of time and we are coming to the close of this discourse, and I'd just love maybe if you could take some 20 seconds to give your closing remarks as we end the show tonight. Maybe I'll start with you.
And first of all, thank you, Kwach, for inviting us here. I want to say this is an amazing platform, and it's great that we get to have this discourse. My parting shot would be, with the national politics, one, politicians need to be very careful about what they're saying. They need to be aware and know that people have memories. We might forgive, but people don't forget. So there is no need to wake up the sleeping dogs. Also, a message to our brothers on the competing sides is that every party is deserved of its own respect. It's deserved of its own rights to enter into an election as they feel like. And come 2022, when everyone sets their team before the Kenyan people, we will understand why we need coalitions and why we need to have respect for each other.
Okay. Mr. Mirimo Nyongesa?
I think I'll use my time to address the people of Western Kenya. Allow me to do that as a young leader from Western region. For a very long time, as the region, where we've been shortchanged because of the kind of entrepreneurship Mudavadi and Wetangula have been incorporated into our local politics. And so I urge my people, this time round, Francis Atwoli has given us the way. He has shown us the way. Let us rally behind his cause. Let us begin on behalf of the region in one voice and in one strength, and champion the agenda of the region as a common people.
Okay.
Brother, I'll first like to appreciate the opportunity that I was invited on this platform and engaging in this discourse with my friends here. I have to say that I'm happy and I appreciate it. I actually look forward coming back here because I feel the time wasn't just enough for us to thoroughly discuss these issues. As for my parting shot, let me remind my people of Mukoroini West that I'm on my way, I'm coming, I hear you, I know where we have been, I have a plan of where we're going. I look forward persuading you people so that you can work on this together. And finally, for the country, we only have this nation to call Kenya. Let's stay mindful of our utterances, knowing that leaders have great influence upon their followers. Let's stay true. We only have one nation, peace above everything else. Thanks, and God bless you, Kenyans.
And thank you so much, gentlemen, for accepting my invite once again. For you, our viewers back at home, this has been The Inside, and of course, my name is Eugyne Ochieng. On behalf of everyone else who has made this happen, I want to wish you a very good evening and a good afternoon, good night.